Hey guys, Skellington80 here. So today we are back for day 20 of 25 Days of Monsters, and we are 4/5 through the series. Today we have Medusa from The Metamorphosis, not the one by Franz Kafka where a guy turns into a cockroach, but the one by Ovid, written in year 8, like 8 AD, and this is one of my favorite illustrations in the book. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that just such a great illustration? Well, I think it is, just saying. Tim Seibert did not mess around. Yeah, I'm sure you've gotten a good look at it. Okay. Pity for poor Medusa. She was once the toast of ancient Greece, admired by all for hang on, never mind. Okay. Now I'm ready to begin. Pity poor Medusa. Once she was the toast of ancient Greece, admired above all for her elaborately done hair. Everyone noticed it, including Neptune, the god of the sea. It was not safe for an immortal to be noticed by the gods, though, for the gods were cruel and pitiless. Neptune assaulted Medusa in the temple of the goddess Minerva, which I think is Aphrodite. Oh, fudge! Oh, never mind. I'll end this paragraph and then I'll get to the thing I skipped by accident. Minerva, cruel and pitiless herself, was angry that her temple had been profaned. She wanted revenge, but it's hard to curse a god like Neptune. Instead, her vengeance fell upon Medusa, who hadn't wanted to be there in the first place. Okay, here we've got, she's a cursed human. Her base of operations is Libya. When, way back before the Trojan War, powers, hair made of snakes and deadly gaze, weakness, mirrors, most deathly deed, turning people to stone, and fear factors 4, even though that's kind of relative. Minerva cursed Medusa with the deadliest curse any vengeful goddess had ever contrived. The poor woman's hair became a tangle of serpents, and so frightful was her appearance that anyone who looked upon her was petrified or turned into stone. Darn it. The hissing snakes, her foes more sure in snare than they did lovers once when shining hair. Perhaps Medusa had no desire to petrify passerby, or perhaps she was simply terrified by this new state of affairs, and whatever the reason, she fled far from Greece to dwell among devious wilds and trackless woods where you might think no one would find her. Nevertheless, Medusa's lair was soon cluttered up by a wasteful havoc of lifeless statues, and because wild animals and hapless wanderers kept wandering by and looking upon her face. The non-stop petrification was Minerva's fault, really, and the goddess ought to have cleaned up the mess she had made. But instead, she arranged for a man named Perseus to travel from Greece and kill Medusa. Yeah, the gods were a bunch of buttholes. Especially Zeus. Step 1 was helping Perseus acquire the items he would need on his mission: winged sandals, a mirror, and a sickle sword. With his winged sandals, Perseus flew to the strange land where Medusa lived, and he located her with his mirror. No eye contact, no risk. Then he crept up backward on her as she slept, and with a backhanded, unerring blow with his sickle sword, chopped off her head. Out of her neck sprang an armored warrior and a winged horse, Pegasus. Out of her blood sprang all the species of poisonous snakes. But Medusa had the last laugh. Perseus carried her severed head around him for years, using it to turn his enemies to stone. One day he displayed Medusa's terrifying visage to an enemy general who was blind. The blind man was unaffected, of course, and puzzled by the fact that the head had failed him, Perseus turned it around to make sure it was still working and immediately turned to stone himself. Yep, people in these stories can be real idiots sometimes, just saying. Alright, beyond the book, Medusa's cousins. Medusa isn't the only monster that can take you out with a look. There's also the basilisk. The great writer Thomas Brown, in his book Pseudodoxia Epidemica, 1646, describes the basilisk as being either a kind of serpent not above 3 palms long, with some white marks or coronary spots upon the crown, or a monster having legs, wings, a serpentine and winding tail, and the crest or comb of what looks like a cock, as in a rooster, not the other kind of cock. Get your mind out of the gutter. The most distinctive thing about it is that it killeth at a distance, that it is poisonous. It poisoneth by the eye. Medusa isn't even the only monster that can turn you to stone. The Kwakiutl people of this American Pacific Northwest, I'm sorry if I butchered that name, speak of a two-headed snake with a bonus human head in the middle called Sisiutl, whose touch can petrify you. Heroic couplets. Ovid wrote the Metamorphosis in Latin, but many writers over the centuries have translated his stories into English. The translation used in this chapter is from 1717, and many of the best poets from this day, including John Dryden and Joseph Addison, have worked on it. For their translation, they used the most popular verse form of this day, heroic couplets. They used the most popular verse form of the day, heroic couplets. Dang, I flubbed it up, I'm sorry. Heroic couplets are pairs of rhyming lines written in iambic pentameter, meaning that each line has 10 syllables and every other syllable is stressed, starting with the second one. The couplet usually makes a complete thought. Often it's just one sentence. Alright, and this is an example of one. Friend, shut your eyes, he cries, his shield he takes, and to the king he exposed Medusa's snakes. For 100 years, before the rise of Romanticism, look back to the Lamia story from day... Hang on, I forget which day it was. I think day 18. Most English poems were written this way. Medusa in Space. In her science fiction story Shambleau, 1933, Catherine L. Moore imagines a new kind of Medusa, an alien with hair made of vampiric worms that feed upon emotions. Moore speculates that the ancient myth of Medusa is based on encounters with these aliens made by astronauts from Atlantis. And those ancient Greeks who told the story, she writes, must have remembered, dimly and half believing, a tale of antiquity about some strange being from the outlying planets where their remotest ancestors once trod. I honestly think that's pretty cool. That sounds like an awesome story, to say the least. Alright, and finally we have Ancient Greece, the Land of Monsters. You couldn't go 3 miles in ancient Greece or turn 3 pages in a book on Greek mythology without tripping over a monster. There's Medusa, of course, and Polyphemus. See day... that's actually tomorrow's story. Without her. And dragons, as well as Hecatoncheires, giants with 100 hands and 50 heads, who fought alongside the gods and the Titanomachy to overthrow the Titans. The Chimera, who breathed raging fire, a creature fearful, great, swift-footed, and strong, who had 3 heads, one of a grim-eyed lion, in her hinder part a dragon, and in her middle a goat breathing forth a fearful blast of blazing fire, from Hesiod's Theogony, circa 700 BC. And finally, Harpies, the birds with the heads of women, who tormented King Phineas in this way. Every time he tried to eat anything, the harpies would fly by and literally poop all over it. Even hundreds of years ago, poop jokes were still a thing. And with that, we have reached the end of today's video. Thank you for joining me. I hope you will return for day 21. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Happy Halloween, and I will see you next time. Bye!